Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ajikugene, and I want to welcome you to our long reach product expose. Today is a very special day because we're going to be talking about a health challenge that is very important right now in the lives of people. But before we proceed, I'd like to let you know that the platform we're on currently is a Long Reach Bioscience platform, and Long Reach Bioscience is a company that is highly vested in research and development. Long Reach Bioscience is an Asian company that has been in existence for over 35 years, and they've been providing value to people around the world. Now, Long Reach has 10 research and development centers around the world. And we're talking about research and development centers that provide world-changing products when it comes to beauty, healthcare, and other aspects. Okay, now they have their research and development centers in the United States of America, in France, in Italy, in Switzerland, in China, and in Japan. Now, this widespread is just lets you know that we're talking about a top player in the cosmetic industry. Now, moving on, Long Reach has over 2,000 quality products, and these products, can be categorized as male healthcare, female healthcare, baby care, personal care, energy healthcare, nutritional supplements, nutritional drinks, smoothies, and teas. So whatever you're looking for, the Long Reach Bioscience platform has you covered. And trust me, every product utilized that is manufactured by Long Reach Bioscience, you can be assured that you're going to get value for your money. Now, we're talking about products that have high efficacy and multiple functions when it comes to providing you with your daily requirements. Now, today, we're going to be talking about hypertension and hypotension. Now, today, I'm not going to be alone on this call. I have a special guest in the house, but I'm going to unveil her presence as we continue. But before we move into what hypertension is all about, I'd like to talk about, heart complications. Okay, now, what are the heart complications? 2 weeks ago, we talked about cardiac arrest and heart attack, right? Today, we're going to talk about hypertension and hypotension. But, we've also been talking about how to take care of our hearts and to ensure that our heart is in a good state. Okay, and we've come to know that when our heart is not in a good state, certain things can happen, which are the things we call heart complications. So in order to avoid heart complications, you have to ensure that your heart is healthy at all costs. Okay, now we have heart complications such as heart attack, heart failure, irregular heartbeat, enlarged heart, hypertension and hypotension. Okay, so today we're going to look at how this, how hypertension can affect a person and how you can also take care of yourself and ensure that you're not held down by that particular health complication. Now, what are the basic things you need to know about hypertension? Now, hypertension is also known as high or raised blood pressure. Okay, it's a condition in which your blood vessels have persistent raised pressure. Now, every time I talk about blood vessels, for those that have been following, we talk about pipes, right? Pipes. Blood vessels serve as your pipes in a plumbing system. Okay, and we know that the heart is a major player in the blood circulatory system of the body. Now, when the heart pumps blood, it releases this blood into what we call blood vessels, to and fro. And we have, our arteries and our veins playing major roles here. Okay, now, I'm not going to be dwelling on blood vessels because I took our time to explain that previously. Okay, so we're going to just jump right in. Now, each time your heart beats, it pumps blood into vessels, okay? Now, the blood pressure is created by the force of blood pushing against the walls of the blood vessels. Now, in quote, arteries, okay? So as it is pumped by the heart, it is released into your arteries, right? Now, the higher the pressure, the harder the heart has to pump. In other words, imagine pumping water from your borehole, okay? Now, that when your tank is empty and all, when the pumping machine pumps, the first set that comes out of your tank, you have this gushing feeling where you get to hear pop, 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 as if your tap is struggling to release its content. Now, at that point, that is what we're talking about, because at that point, a lot of pressure is being exerted from the pumping machine to the tank, from the tank to your tap within your house, to ensuring that water gets to the top or to the bottom for water to, be available to everyone within the house. Now, that pressure is what we're talking about when we're talking about hypertension. Now, the higher the pressure, the harder the heart has to pump. So every time an individual's blood pressure is high, that person is overworking the heart. It's just like using your arm. The moment you overwork your arm, to and fro, what happens? Especially for those people that gym and they carry dumbbells or they lift weights, your muscles, the muscles of your arm will begin to bunch. It'll begin to take this tough, turgid outlook. You find out that the veins begin to, erupt on the side. There's this bunched look it has. It becomes big because of exercise. A lot of us are exercising our hearts that way. And that's why you find out that some people start, talking about, what is this situation? It's as if my heart wants to jump out of my chest. Immediately things like that start happening, it means you're overworking your heart and the pressure going there is too much, okay? Now, blood pressure is determined by the amount of blood your heart pumps and the amount of resistance to the blood flow in your arteries. So the more blood your heart pumps, the narrower your arteries and the higher your blood pressure. Now, you can have high blood pressure for years without any symptom. That's the truth. This can actually be happening to you without symptoms. Okay, now let's move on. Now, you can see the heart, right? Now, on the screen, you can see the heart when it's contracts, as in there's a contracting action taking place. You can see that it's squeezed here, and there's a release or a relaxation here when you look at this other image. Now, whenever the heart contracts that way, at the time of the heartbeat, what we call systolic pressure is taking place, okay? And it is measured at the top, okay? So anytime you see blood pressure measurements, when the heart is contracting, at the time of a heartbeat, it's known as systolic pressure or systolic blood pressure. Okay, that's the reading for that, and it's usually at the top. Okay, now when the pressure inside your arteries, so when the heart is done, contracts and it now releases itself, the pressure that takes place in the arteries is what we call diastolic pressure. Okay, diastolic pressure, and it's in between heartbeats. This happens in between heartbeats and it's found at the bottom. It's the reading at the bottom. We call it diastolic blood pressure. Okay, now I'm just saying blood pressure. I know a lot of people are like, doctors, what's blood pressure, right? So for those people that are not very familiar with blood pressure, this is for you. Okay, so blood pressure is the force exerted by circulating blood against the walls of the body's arteries. Okay, now blood pressure is written as two numbers. Okay, the first one is a systolic, as I showed you earlier on, representing the pressure in the blood vessels when the heart contracts or beats. Okay, the second is diastolic, representing the pressure in the vessels when the heart rests between beats. So when the heart is at rest, the pressure within the arteries is what we're looking at this particular point. Okay, now blood pressure is measured in millimeters of mercury. That's mmHg, millimeters of mercury or millimeter mercury, okay? And it's written systolic over the diastolic. So for example, if you go to the hospital and they take your blood pressure, it will read 120 over 80, okay? Now, systolic 120, diastolic 80, right? So it's 120 over 80, that's how we read it, right? Now, according to most recent guidelines, a normal blood pressure is less than 120. So within the range of below and 120, 80, you say you have normal blood pressure. But a person is said to have elevated blood pressure when the person's blood pressure is at it moves from 120 to 129, okay? And when it is less than 80. you find out that the person has challenges, okay? The person's blood pressure is not, as in at the right measurement or at the normal range. So hypertension is when blood pressure is too high. So hyper is when something's, high, right? So hyper means the blood pressure is too high, okay? Now, hypertension is diagnosed when blood pressure is greater than 130. So we said from 129, okay? Immediately you get to 129, 129, after 129 is 130. So from 130, so when the person has a reading of 130, 80, we can start, the warning begins, right? Now, hypertension or elevated blood pressure is a serious medical condition that significantly increases the risk of what? Heart problems, brain problems, kidney problems, and other diseases. So it's a precursor. If this challenge comes on board, there is a very strong chance that it could open the door for other challenges to come on board. And that's why it's important that we don't joke with it. So this is a medical person here, educating us on, the diastolic, the systolic and the diastolic. So systolic, as I said earlier on, is pressure exerted when blood is ejected into arteries, and the normal systolic pressure is 120 millimeter mercury, okay? While the diastolic is a pressure blood exerts within arteries between heartbeats. And normal diastolic blood pressure is 80. Do not forget this, okay? Do not forget this. Now, moving on, we have the blood pressure ranges, okay? We have the range that can help you know. So without a doctor, when you get your blood pressure checked, you can tell if you're within the safe zone or the unsafe zone. Now, if you check your blood pressure and you find out that it is less than 120, and it's also less than 20, and so than 80, you are within the healthy range here. So this is the healthy range. When it's less than 120 and it's less than 80, you are the healthy range, okay? Now, it is said to be elevated when we start tilting from 120 to 129 and 30. You're already, moving up, okay? So elevated. So if your blood pressure is within 120 to 129, it's like a warning. Your blood pressure is elevated. You need to take caution, okay? Now, when it is less than 80, it's also a time for caution. Something is wrong somewhere, okay? Now, a person is said to be in stage 1 of hypertension when the person has readings of 130 to 139 and 80 to 89, okay? When you start getting that kind of reading, then you know that you are at stage 1. And everything, in short, at this point, you know that if you don't take actions to reduce your blood pressure, it could escalate and move to stage 2 and stage 3, where you have to start having crisis over time. Okay, so for those people that want to document, I think you need to screen grab this. Now, it's important that you note that an individual's heart rate and blood pressure are a reflection of the fitness level of that person. So if you're fit, it will show with your blood pressure reading. If you're not fit, it will show with your blood pressure reading. So people that are not fit will have higher blood pressure readings, while people that are fit will have below 120 and 80 over 80. Okay? So how fast one's heart rate and blood pressure return to normal post an activity is an excellent indicator of their heart health. In other words, for example, if you climb the staircase, okay, when you were at the bottom, you were okay. And when you climb to the top and you're going, if your heart, if your blood pressure, or if this strain does not go down quickly, then you know that something is wrong somewhere. Your arteries are struggling. Probably plaque and some other things must have, congested it, and it needs to be, decongested, because you see, the pipes are not releasing blood the way they ought to. And don't forget that when there's an obstruction, heart failure, okay, or cardiac arrest will take place, right? So you can see why it's important to take caution. Now, blood pressure changes differ according to the types of exercises one engages in. Now, when you carry out exercises, sometimes your heart rate, as in your blood pressure, could actually increase. But there is a mechanism that has been created in your body to, ensure that it goes back to factory settings. Okay, so I am at 120/80. I go for, probably I go to swim and I'm swimming real fast and real hard. When I come back after some time, my body should be able to take me back to 120. If I happen to check my blood pressure at the time, after just as I'm out of the water, and I find out that it's at 127, after a short period of time, when I check again, it should be back to 120, because that's the way our body has been programmed to handle it. Now, exercises help in enlarging and strengthening the cardiac muscles to further allow the heart to circulate more blood with every heartbeat. So having exercise is important, but not excessively, okay? You need to ensure that it's within the normal range. Now, when the person is exercising during periods of emotional stress or at any other time when the heart is stimulated to beat more strongly than at rest, the force of cardiac contraction increases and the systolic pressure goes up. So if you're having emotional issues, if you're having, there's this project I need to do, it's on your mind and you're doing it will increase your systolic blood pressure. It will increase it. Okay, so it's important that when you want to engage in things like that, when you know your blood pressure is high, try to ensure that you're at rest so that it comes down, so that you don't overexert yourself. Okay, now the increase in systolic blood pressure that occur during these conditions of cardiac stress is actually normal. Okay, this explains why it is important to measure blood pressure during periods of quiet rest. So if you're done with your activities and all that and you check, your blood pressure could be high. So it's important that you rest. You take out time for your body to gain itself before you take your next reading. Because some people, immediately after having a panic attack or after they quickly go to check their blood pressure, your reading might be very high. But it's important you give your body that opportunity to rest. Most times, some people, after going through traffic and everything, when they get to the hospital, they just sit down, check my blood pressure. Then the next is, your blood pressure is high. You're like, no, madam, what are you saying? No. When you are going to check your blood pressure, if you've had a long time to walk or you've been stressed out, give yourself some time. If possible, sit for 10 to 20 minutes. Ensure you're calm before you take your reading so that you don't get wrong readings. And when the person has more than 2 readings that are consistent on different days, then it's time for the person to take note of that particular reading. That could actually be an indicator that something is wrong and you need to pay attention to it. So how do you get your blood pressure checked? Okay, in order for your doctor to ascertain that a person has hypertension or high blood pressure, it's important that standard inquiry takes place. Okay, it's important you take your blood pressure. Now, the first step in controlling your blood pressure is knowing your numbers. I always tell people, know your numbers. Okay, before that time of the reading, know what your first number is. Okay, the last time I checked, my number was 120/80. So that when you check again, you have something to compare with. Okay, so let's see, before. So what are you supposed to do before you check your blood pressure? In the 30 minutes before your BP is taken, do not smoke, do not take coffee that is caffeinated, do not exercise, okay? Ensure you are in a place of rest, okay? Now, then after ensuring that in 5 minutes before you take your BP or 10 minutes, ensure you sit still. Don't walk about, just sit still in an upright position, sit still. It helps, your body to calm down, and it helps whoever's going to take your blood reading to have accurate results. Okay. Now, so when they put in the cuff on your arm to check and all that, you need to make sure that the cuff is the right size and it's placed at the right part of your arm. Okay. Don't go and take one tiny one and you're struggling to fit it, you know, it's not covering properly. If your arm is very big and the cuff is not going around or so, then that's not for you. Ensure that you use the type that goes around your arm very well. Now you keep your cuffed arm, you can see it here, okay? Keep it on a flat surface like a table and let it be at heart level. So you can see your arm is at heart level, okay? Now sit upright, back straight, feet flat on the floor. Don't raise your feet up. Let your feet be flat on the floor. Here you can see the person's feet flat on the floor. Don't talk, because as you talk, it could actually, you know, make it feel as if activities are going on. Okay. Then you wait 1 minute. So after taking that reading, wait for 1 minute, and you take another reading. Okay. It's important that you consider at least 3 readings before you say, okay, this is my final. So if you take 3 readings, you could do the average of the 3 to be more accurate, or you pick the one that's consistent amongst the 3. Okay. So if you, for example, you took the first one was 123, 80. You did the second one, 124. You did the third one, 120. You could do the average, and that could help you, you know, have the mindset, or you just pick one of them as it, you know, that you are within that safe range. Okay. Now it's important that you keep a log, okay, of your blood pressure so that you can effectively monitor. So the last time I checked, this was where I was, this is where I am right now, so that you can determine your lifestyle choices. So if the first time you went for your reading, you had 120/80, what were the things I did right? What were the things I did wrong? You're able to ascertain during this visit if you keep a log of your blood pressure. You know, okay, for the past 3 months, I've been stressed out because of some emotional things that happened. I now need to look inwards. What are the things that made me that stressed out? What am I supposed to do to ensure that next time I don't get stressed out this way? Those are the things that help you ensure that you know, have a very healthy lifestyle, right? And don't forget that wellness is a choice, okay? Wellness is a choice, it's not a state, it's a choice based on your lifestyle, okay? Now, bring your device yearly to make sure it's accurate. So if you have, you know, a device at home, if possible, whenever you're going for your checkup, take it along so that in case it's not functioning well, your provider can actually help you, or can ascertain, and you can, discard it and get a better one. Okay, so moving on, we have 2 types of hypertension, okay? And the first is called the primary, while the second is called the secondary. Now, primary hypertension is mostly for adults, okay? And there is no identifiable cause of high blood pressure. It's just something that happens as a result of the person getting old, okay? So the older you get, due to, you know, artery issues and, you know, lifestyle choices and everything, as you advance, you find out that your blood pressure begins to increase due to age, okay? But when we talk about secondary hypertension, we're talking about hypertension as a result of an underlying condition. So because a person had diabetes, it led to hypertension. Because a person has obstructive sleep apnea, I hope I pronounced that well, yeah? Yeah, so this is it. So because of OSA, a person that has, you're not sleeping well, or your heart, you know, skips beats, and, you know, stuff like that, it has escalated and has led to hypertension. Now, in some other cases, it could be as a result of adrenal gland tumors. For people that stress out easily, people that panic easily, I think this adrenal gland issue is because, you see, every time the adrenal gland, you know, is triggered for fight or flight, especially when you encounter something that wants to make you run, or something that makes you scared, right? Next thing, your heart beats, right? Your blood pressure increases at that point. Now, there's some people that their lifestyle is based on this. Now, if you've listened to my training on stress, you remember that there is a mechanism to your body system where your adrenal gland is triggered, is fired, and your heart beats. Blood supply is sent to the heart to feed the heart more than every other part. Now, if your adrenal gland is stressed beyond measure due to your lifestyle choices, probably you're just a panicky person, or you find yourself in situations that keep you in a panic state or in a stressed state, you could actually start, you know, it could gravitate to that place. Then thyroid problems, okay, bed defects, okay, blood vessel defects as a result of overuse of certain medications, such as birth control pills, cold remedies, decongestants, over-the-counter pain relievers, and prescription drugs. Now, if you're, I tell people, when you're giving a medication, ask your provider, what are the side effects of this particular drug? You know, most times, a lot of people are told, okay, because you have this condition, you have to be on this, although it's supposed to be taken for like less a month, but because this situation is not going, you might just be dependent on this medication for the rest of your life. Now, most people forget to ask, my provider or doctor, if I'm to stay on this for a long time, what are the side effects? Tell me. Or Nigerian doctors, they won't give you the pack of the medication they are giving you. They'll put in all those white nylons, right? So you can't tell the name. And when they're writing your prescription, they write in those funny handwritings, so that when you even try to look at it, you can't understand what they're saying. So when you get to the pharmacists will just look at it. I don't know how they have the spiritual eye to read it up, but somehow they just read it up and you find out that they understand the medication to give you. Now, as you keep doing that, you're just swallowing and swallowing. Most times, this medication have side effects that after a prolonged period of time could end up giving you high blood pressure or hypertension. Okay, so it's important that even if it's a pain, you can see over-the-counter pain relievers. So if you're a person that cannot do without pain relievers, it's important you start researching about that pain reliever, and you get to find out what's the side effect. And for those people that do hard drugs, please know that in the long run, you could actually end up with secondary hypertension. Now, what are the causes of high blood pressure? We have different causes, but you see the number one on the list is an unhealthy lifestyle. Okay, if you have an unhealthy lifestyle, trust me, it's going to be very easy to acquire. Okay, now for people that have family history of having high blood pressure, it's inevitable. In other words, it's a DNA thing that's reflecting in your life. So it's important that you do everything necessary to ensure that your blood pressure does not escalate more than normal. Now, if you're an African American, or if you're African, okay, high blood pressure is something that is a little bit synonymous with our race, right? So it's important that you don't allow things, stress you out and the rest of them. Now, if you're a man, you're susceptible, but if you're a woman, you have an increased risk of, ending up with blood pressure at the age of 55. So the choices you make right now are important to ensure that when you get to 55, you don't end up with high blood pressure. Now, when you face high level of stress, so for people that live stress-induced lifestyle, you wake up 4 a.m. in the morning, you enjoy traffic for 4 hours. On your way back, you enjoy traffic for 5 hours. The next morning you move it. You do that for 365 days or even 200 days. Trust me, that's a life of stress. And I'll leave it at that. I'm not saying anything. I'm not trying to make anybody feel afraid, okay? Yeah, so if you eat diet high in saturated fats and you take a lot of salt, okay, you could actually trigger it, okay? Now, when you drink excessive alcohol, you actually open the door to high blood pressure, right? So it's said that individuals should not do they should do at least 1 or 2 drinks per day for men, and for women, at least 1 drink per day. And if possible, ensure that the alcohol content is reduced. So what are the symptoms of high blood pressure? You have headaches, you have fatigue, you have vision problems. You find out that your vision is changing. Sometimes it's blurry. Sometimes it's as if your eye is turning, difficulty breathing, chest pains, pounding on your head, your neck. You feel as if your neck wants to, detach. You have irregular heartbeat. Your heart is beating faster than normal. You're not panicking, but your heart is just beating. You're at a place of rest, but your heart is beating as in a very, very annoying pace. Then you know that there's trouble. Then in cases where you see blood in your urine and you know that you don't have problems with your kidney or so, then it's high time you look at this direction. So how is high blood pressure, okay? How is it treated, okay? So what are the things that you can do? Number one is to meet your healthcare provider, get to know what he has to say about your situation. Because you see, the case for one person is actually different from another person. We found out that some people have high blood pressure readings, and you find out that they are walking, and so most times doctors are like, Oga, at this particular reading, you're supposed to be on bed rest, or you're supposed to be having drip and other things placed on you. But I'm surprised that you're able to walk. So some people could have high readings and they're fine, they're just walking around with it, while other people, the moment it gets to that particular point, they're down. So, but whatever it is, whatever reading you have, you could actually take care of yourself by ensuring that you eat low fat and low salt diet. Your food should have low salt content, it should have low fatty content. Don't forget that when fats clog your pipes, it will not allow, your arteries, it will not allow blood to flow properly, right? And if you're obese, it's important that you lose weight to ensure that excess fat goes out, okay? Now, it's important you exercise. If you're mostly inactive, or you sit for long durations at a particular point, maybe at work or somewhere else, it's important that you exercise regularly. If you smoke, it's important to quit. Okay, if you drink alcohol excessively, it's time to moderate it. And it's important that you ensure, if you're not sleeping well, it's important you handle sleeping disorders so that your body is able to rest and regain itself, and take care of worn-out tissues and all that. So aside having your pipes and some your heart, having a heart attack, cardiac arrest, and the rest of them, other organs of the body can be affected. It can be affected if hypertension is not taken care of. Okay, so it could lead to damage of your eyesight. It could lead to bursting or blockage of your arteries. It could lead to brain cells dying. I'm talking about stroke here, okay? That can impair your speech, your movement, and your basic activities, okay? It could also lead to dementia, okay? Cognitive impairment. It could lead to kidney damage. It could lead to erectile dysfunction in men and low libido. So it's important that we take note and take care of this so that complications do not arise and affect others. So everything I just said, you can see it in this pictorial view. It could affect the eyes, it could affect the brain, it could affect the heart, it could lead to heart failure, it could affect the kidneys, and it could cause sexual dysfunction, right? So at this point, I'm going to call on my co-host today, the person of Grace Jewel, to join me, on the call to talk about hypotension, because I just, talked about hypertension and how it affects you. So it's time for us to look at the other side of the coin. So if your blood pressure is high, I've told you what's going to happen to you. Now, if it is low, there's also a challenge, right? Don't forget, hemostasis is the goal. Keeping a stable internal, environment, ensuring that there's balance. When there's excess, there's trouble. When there's a deficiency, there's also trouble. So at this point, I'd like to invite Grace Jewel to please come on camera so that she can, handle hypotension. So Grace, if you're on this call, please say hi. Hello, Grace. Okay, so I'm not getting feedback from Grace.
Been talking about hypertension. We've all heard about hypertension. We are more familiar with the word hypertension. So today I'll be talking more of hypertension. I know it's only few of us that are more exposed to the word hypertension. So I'd like to start with a question that says, why hypo? Whenever we hear anything hyper, that means that's high. But when it comes to hypertension means something that is excessively high. But hypo now is something that is excessively low. So what is hypertension or hypotension all about? As my doctor said so far, hypertension is when the heart rate is higher than normal, and we have what's it called? The stage whereby it must not go beyond 120/80 millimeter mercury. So we'll be talking about hypertension now. What is hypertension? Said the heart pumps blood around the body through the blood vessels. As she said, I'm not going to take much of our time tonight because we've been exposed to more of this. So we'll talk about the blood pressure, we'll talk about blood vessels. So we know the heart pumps blood around the blood vessels, which is the artery and the vein. And the blood pressure is the amount of force that is extended towards the artery, and how it's elevated. So by pumping the blood through the valves according to the environment demands. Now, our area and also where we stay, our lifestyle demands what our heart rate. Sometimes it can be so low depending on the climate or the environment. And at times it can be high through the weather also. So hypertension is a low blood pressure. Means the pressure of the blood is lower than usual. The blood circulating is not the usual rate that expected given the environment condition. Now let's assume the pressure of the blood circulating around the body is lower than normal or lower than expected, given the environment condition. So that is why it is called hypertension. Hypertension is when your blood level or your blood circulation or your blood pressure is lower than usual. In respect to what hypertension is when the blood is being elevated. So the fact about hypertension said hypertension is also known as low blood level, and blood level which ranges between 90/60 millimeter mercury. So when your blood pressure is much lower than expected, it happens to be a condition where we call hypertension. And hypertension varies in conditions. So we have many people who are faced with this challenge or who fall victim of this. So hypertension is not for a specific person. It can happen to anyone, irrespective of your age range. Slowly, hypertension also decreases the blood level, which happens in any range, ages. So it can also affect even an unpleasant way. And when you have hypertension, it can be destructive if you are not aware of it. But it is always better when you are aware, whereby you get diagnosed that, oh, you have hypertension. And it can cause, the symptoms can be you can be asymptomatic at times when you have hypertension. Unlike hypertension. Hypertension at times can give you signs, can give you symptoms, whereby you can actually deliver, okay, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling that way. But hypertension is like a killer disease. It comes slowly. You just feel, oh, I'm tired today after a whole stress day. No. So I'm going to talk about two different types of hypertension. We have absolute hypertension and orthostatic hypertension. Now, the absolute hypertension is when your blood pressure is resting below 90/60 millimeter mercury. That is, it is lower than that range. It is lower than 60, it's lower than 90/60. While the orthostatic hypertension drops within 3 minutes of you standing from a position. You might be lying down, you might be sitting down, and before you know what is going on, you're feeling fainting. This happens mostly to those that went through surgery, because after surgery, you've been lying for a while and you're trying to get your feet, looking like, oh, this is my normal person. And before you know what is going on, you're falling off. That is when orthostatic hypertension comes in most times. But for absolute hypertension, you might just be walking on the road, you might be in any activities, and the next thing is you're not feeling yourself right. So that means there is something. And it is not all dizziness. Please, the next slide. Now, I want us to look at this blood pressure charts. If you look at this blood pressure chart, there's a place with a green color. The green color shows that is the normal blood pressure. But when it goes down on my left-hand side, you can see that is hypertension. That's the low blood pressure. It is going lower than 90. Anything lower than 90/60, that is hypertension. Next chart, sir. Emma. Hello, Ma, are you there? Okay, so I want us to know this. Under any circumstances, the body can automatically control blood pressure. Now, when we are faced or we come in contact with what we call hypotension, when it's about to drop down, there's the way our body reacts. It automatically suits back to a normal rate, whereby the body comes back to fight against. There's a reconstrict, the heart reconstrict with the blood vessels, whereby it helps the blood pressure to go up. That is narrowing the blood pressure, making it elevated a bit, so you don't fall victim of hypertension. But there are some instances whereby, depending on your exposure, it might not be able to compensate it enough as it used to be. So then it drops. So when it drops, when you feel that way, you should notice that, oh, there's something going on. So if the systolic pressure is lower than normal, which is, as Ma'am Doka said, the systolic pressure is the one that is up, while the diastolic is the one that is down. That is the resting stage, which is the lower one. So now, when the systolic hypotension is said to be present, if systolic pressure is severe enough, it can cause lightheadedness. That is, you feel like your head is being tilted. You're not getting it very well. Sometimes you have this dizziness also, or at times you feel there's something not going on well in your body. The dizziness might not just occur. It might just be like, oh, you are seeing in triple. You are seeing beyond, like, but you're not falling off. You have this thin head, like it's going to look like an headache, but not a severe headache. So systolic hypertension can also occur if the blood volume is too low, whereby you can, when you are dehydrated, most times, if you are the one that fasts a lot, or probably due to work, you don't end up eating. It can also, you can also fall victim of hypotension, because when you are dehydrated, the body does not have enough energy to pump out oxygen into the brain. And when you are dehydrated, don't forget that the water you take in also work alongside with the blood. So when there is not enough water, because inside our water we have what we call oxygen, and the brain needs oxygen for it to function. And when there is not enough oxygen for the brain to carry the blood, for it to be elevated, then you fall victim of hypotension. So systolic hypotension can occur if the blood volume is too low, which I just said, or probably due to an injury, accident, internal bleeding. So when it's happened this way, so you just need to help yourself out. So from on the screen now, we have a low blood pressure chart where you see hypotension, which is, as I said, 90/60 millimeter of mercury. So when it is lower than that, from my chart, you can see from 80 to 60, you start feeling nauseated, dizzy. From 80 to 50, you are fainting and being tired. From 70 to 50, you are feeling weak, having blurred vision. From 60/45, that sleepiness or confusion. Even some people don't even go beyond 50 to 45 and they end up in coma. So hypertension is even more riskier than hypertension, because when you fall into coma, there are chances, because by the time they're going to elevate it, it takes slight chance for you to go back to the normal range. Please, the next slide. So what causes hypertension? There are a lot of causes of hypertension. We have emotional stress, fear, insecurity, or pain. As we all know, everybody faces one challenges or the other emotionally. It might be due to work, it might be due to lifestyle, it might be due to finance. So dehydration also, as I said, reduce the blood volume, whereby you don't have enough water in your system, and your blood has actually helped in producing it, trying to reconstrain back. But due to the less oxygen in you, there is a mistake somewhere and you fall into hypertension. The blood reaction to the heart, which is to shorten the blood into the blood vessels, that is the skin. When you are going to fall into hypertension, there is this reaction you get on your skin, like dehydration. Your skin looks wrinkled. We have blood donation. Sometimes when you get blood due to maybe accidents, or due to surgery, or due to one health issue or the other, you might fall victim of hypertension. Probably the blood is either not enough, or the serum of the blood, because inside the blood we have serum, is not enough. So you might end up falling into hypertension. We have internal bleeding, as I said, and such as perforated stomach ulcer. Let me explain this part. When there's a perforated stomach ulcer due to heartburn, there is this bleeding that occurs. That is when you start seeing blood in your stool. Just the way it happens in hypertension, where you start seeing blood in your urine. So we have blood loss from trauma due to road accident, I said. Pregnancy also causes hypertension. Now, pregnancy causes hypertension in the sense that most times this happens at the early stage of pregnancy, whereby the mother or the body of the mother is feeling strange to the new physiology of the baby. So there are chances that the normal blood level the mother is using will not be enough for both the mother and the child. That is when they experience hypertension. So we have medications for high blood pressure, whereby you are giving medications for high blood pressure to help reduce the elevated blood vessels. Now, taking it probably due to the milligram, as Ma'am Doctors has said, description at times, probably whereby you're supposed to take one and you're taking two, either due to your body weight, can also lead to hypotension. We have diuretic, as I said. Diuretic is also part of high blood pressure medications. We have medications for depression. Medication for depression is to help relax the nerves and the neurons so that the person can actually come back to life, to his own normal state. But when there is excessive of the medication in the system, can also lead to hypotension, because when you are taking all this medication, it helps you to give out waste in your body. You go to toilet either by sweating or by urinating often. And when the water in your system, that's the one that should give you more oxygen to help you function, is out, you end up falling into hypertension. We have allergic or reactions to drugs also, some forms of infection, also just like stroke syndrome, when you fall into stroke, because before you can get to stroke, you might have actually gone through hypertension crisis. So we also have heart diseases. When you have hypertension, it exposes you to different type of illness. And we have some nerve disorder due to Parkinson's disease. Now, let me explain this part. When you have a Parkinson's disease, the reason why they fall more into hypertension is because their digestive system actually is what helps now the blood vessels for digestion. When they are going to digest their food, they use the blood vessels in digesting. They don't use the normal digestive system because of the kind of disease they have. Parkinson's disease is maybe somebody that has actually gone through an episode of stroke, maybe once, twice, thrice. And Parkinson's disease also fall victim from hypertensive drugs. I mean hypertensive drugs, that is the hypertensive or the high blood pressure drugs can result you back to having Parkinson's disease because of the toxic. So we also have Addison diseases, which is for the glands, whereby you are trying to help the glands to function normal. So too much of it, the toxic in the medications also make you lose out more weight. So how can you get yourself diagnosis of low blood pressure? Now, low blood pressure, as I said, is sometimes you are not aware, but you can actually notice if there is a sensitive type to your body. Now, for you to know if you've been having signs and symptoms or crisis, either through test, through lab. And when you are going to run any laboratory blood test, they will be running for diabetes, which helps to know what is going on, because diabetes also helps you fall victim of hypertension. We have valvular manual, that is for people that has asthma. And for tilt table test, a tilt table test fall victim of those, that is when we have the two types of hypertension, that is the orthostatic hypertension, as I said, from the absolute hypertension, hypertension and orthostatic, that is where you have the tilt table hypertension, whereby they help you to know if you are falling victim of an orthostatic hypertension. We have imaging tests. Exposure to X-ray can also help you fall victim of hypertension. Echocardiogram also help you expose you to hypertension. And stress. As we all know, Nigeria is full of stress, whereby we have to seek for our daily needs under the sun. Also follow. And too much of, if you work, most people like the caterers, people that work in the hotel, people that work in the factory, fall victim of low blood pressure because of exposure to heat. So I want you to take note of this. Also, your occupation can also expose you to low blood pressure. Please, the next slide. Dr. Said there, the next slide. So how can we treat hypertension? For us to treat hypertension, treatment varies. And for you to get hypertension treated, hypertension can only be treated according to the causes. So you can't say because A has hypertension, you want to work alongside with A. A might have hypertension due to surgery, and the other person might have hypertension due to internal injury. They are two different parts. So hypertension is treated according to the cause or to the complaint. So we have drinking of more water, which helps to increase the oxygen level, transfusion of blood, just the same way we have treatment for hypertension, the same way we have treatment for, the same way we have treatment for hypertension, the same way we have treatment for hypertension. That's through blood transfusion. Using of salt regulation, like now, if you have hypertension, they tell you take lesser salt. But for hypertension, you have to take more salt because the salt is going to help produce more of hydrogen in the body, which increase the blood level and elevates the blood vessels. So we also have wearing on compression socks, that is to generate more heat, to make you feel more hot in yourself. So we have medications. We have several medications that can help boost your blood pressure. So when you take those medications, you are not in a medical class. I will have given us different medications that has to help to do with increase in hypertension, whereby you won't fall victim of hypertension. So also, please the next slide. So we want to pay for us to also get treated of hypertension. We need to pay more to our body position, the way we sleep. Sometimes there's some sleeping position that does not allow the blood flow in us. So what we eat, we need to eat more, and not just eat more, eat the right food that has crab's meal that helps prevent low blood pressure. So we need to also exercise regularly, whereby exercise regularly. If you are the type that you don't walk for a long period, you need to walk, because when you walk, it helps the heart rate get stronger. It helps the blood pressure to go elevated. It makes the momentum more higher. So that is why you need to do more of exercise. Do strenuous job that makes you feel agile, that exposes you to more lightning, that gives you more energy. And when there's more energy in you, the oxygen rates speed up and the heart rate also goes up, and the blood vessels goes higher, because if you plant on a staircase, by the time you're coming down, you're feeling weak. So hypertension, the common signs of hypertension is dizziness, as I said. Dizziness might not be maybe okay after alcohol. No, that's not the kind of dizziness we're talking here. Dizziness is whereby you're feeling weak, like you can't control your steps. You're feeling light-tinting, fainting or passing out. Sometimes we have confusion or troubling in concentration. Whereby we are trying to think, you're trying to foresight something, but because of the less oxygen, the brain is getting, you can't think straight. Sometimes we have fast or shallow breathing, whereby you just suddenly there's this way you feel like the heart is going to pump out, like it's going to fall out of your chest, like it's pumping and you're not controlling it well. And symptoms of hypertension, as I said, Dr. Sorry, I'm taking much of the time. So for hypertension, the difference between hypertension and hypertension is the hypertension, we have this abnormal blood flow. It goes slowly. It is not fast. But hypertension has a speed rate whereby you can see the arrow from the diagram. It jumps up faster than the usual rate. Unlike hypertension, it goes slowly. So I just want to, Dr. please 1 minute. I just want to say this. I myself, I fall victim of an hypertension person. I still fell victim on Monday, but whenever this thing comes, the only thing I do is I go back to my cup. So I don't want to talk about the products because Ma'am Doctors will talk more about the products that helps us to take care of hypertension. But the difference between hypertension and hypertension, there's something that is different. When you have hypertension, does not mean you have less calcium. But in hypertension, there is less calcium. That is why they are having hypertension. By hypertension, there is excess calcium, but there is low oxygen that flows into the blood. Thank you, Ma, for the opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for the time spent tonight. Also, sorry because of the background noise. It's raining here.
Thank you very much, Grace. Thank you so much. You did justice to the topic. And I know that everyone here is familiar with hypotension. So I believe from everything we've talked about, you now know the sides of the coin. Now we're coming back to the platform we're on. As you know, Longreach has awesome products. You can see them on my screen that can give you a healthy and a beautiful lifestyle. And all you need to do is to switch your brand, okay? When you switch your brand, you get to enjoy benefits. Now on your screen, you can see products that you can use that are manufactured by Longreach Bioscience that can take care of hypertension and hypotension. So you're not left out here. Longreach has you covered, okay? You're covered on the Longreach platform. So we have special products like our Longreach berry oil, our Longreach calcium, our Longreach pie cup, our Nutri-V, and our Longreach Nutri-V brown tea. All that you can take to take care of hypertension. While for hypotension, you can take our Longreach berry oil, use the Longreach pie cup, and take Nutri-V blue, okay, to take care of those situations, that challenge. Now, the Longreach pie cup is second to none. And as you can see on my screen, all the functions that you have there are the functions and even more that you can enjoy from using this product. Now, but one thing I'm going to emphasize on tonight, because we've talked about the pie cup on several locations, is this. Your Longreach pie cup has what it takes to detoxify your system of cholesterol and fatty deposits. Now, if your pipes are blocked, plaque can take space in your arteries and blood supply will not flow properly. So when you take water from the pipe up, you can actually clear out plaque and ensure that there's proper circulation in your arteries. Secondly, when you take water from the pipe up, the water from the pipe up has high oxygenation, okay? It helps to add oxygen to the water you're taking. So circulation is easily achieved and oxygen can get to your heart and to your brain in the supply that is required, okay? Now for people that don't hydrate properly, this helps you to ensure that your cells receive proper hydration. So when water comes in, your body is able to receive nutrients, blood supply is able to flow quickly to the necessary organs required when you take water from the pipe cup. And besides that, it's the best treatment plan you can ever ask for. The Longreach berry oil is fantastic. We talked about this, okay? So because of time, I won't dwell on this. But one thing I will tell you is this. The Longreach berry oil is a product that takes care of your organs. Takes care of your heart, takes care of your kidney, your liver, your reproductive organs. Okay? So if you want your organs to function at the high level, then you need to take berry oil. Our Longreach calcium is excellent at providing you with micronutrients. It provides you with calcium, iron, zinc, magnesium. It also helps to maintain your blood pH level, okay? It helps to improve your reproductive organ and to also fight out any, challenge that ought to affect your bone marrow and your bones, okay? And don't forget that blood is produced in the bone marrow, right? So if your bone marrow is properly taken care of, you have enough blood supply that can take care of your organs. Moving on, we have our blood fat reducing tea. Now, the blood fat reducing tea helps to improve blood circulation. So your arteries, if they are filled with plaque, you can clear out the plaque and any type of obstruction by detoxifying your body system using our blood fat tea. Now, I hope I'm not screaming too loud. Because of the rain, I feel the sound is very high. so I have to speak louder. I hope I'm not busting your earlobes, okay? So sorry about that. So finally, we have the NutriV Blue and the NutriV Pink. Now, we recommend NutriV Blue for people that are on the slim side or for people that are recovering from ailments, okay? So if you have an ailment and you're recovering or your immune system is low, this is for you. It helps to ensure that you low people with low blood pressure are catered for. Okay, it provides you with the nutrients you need to ensure that your body is working well. Now, when we talk about NutriV Pink helps to take out bad cholesterol from your body system, while it also provides your necessary requirements. Now, when you take out NutriV Pink, it gives you all your nutritional requirements. You're not struggling, and it also helps you to burn fat. So you're able to lose weight while your body is running smoothly with this particular product. Now, moving on, every product you purchase on the language platform gives you what we call PVs, or product value or point value. Now, an accumulation of the point value gives you money. Okay, so it's important that you switch your brand and you shake your account, right? Now, with an accumulation of products, especially the products I just told you about, you can become a member of the Long Reach Network Marketing Platform. In other words, you can come in at any of these entry levels and you begin to get products at a discounted rate or at company price. And aside that, you have the privilege of building a business on the Long Reach platform. Now, what are the things you need to do? All you need to do is just pick products that you need, ensure that the points accumulate to give you the Q Silver, which is 60 PVs, Silver, which is 120 PVs, Gold, which is 240 PVs, Platinum, which is 720 PVs, and Platinum VIP, which is 1,680 PVs. Now, as you accumulate these PVs, you are able to come on board as a registered member. And with Long Reach, all you need is just 3 people, okay? 3 people working with you, doing the same thing you're doing and building a business. Now, nobody's putting you under pressure. Okay, when you register, it's your business. You move at your own pace. You become a leader. You learn to become a leader. You learn to do all you need to do to ensure that your business works. Okay, there is no mandatory monthly purchase, although it is required that you earn a particular bonus when you do your repeat order bonus, your repeat order monthly. Okay, so you can earn by doing monthly, purchases, right? But it is not mandatory. You will not lose your membership. You will not lose anything by not doing this monthly stuff, but you will lose a particular bonus when you do not do this, right? Now, you are free to accumulate bonus points as much as you want, and you can earn in 10 ways. You can see the 10 ways stated on my screen. You can earn retail profit, fast bonus, performance bonus, travel bonuses, car bonuses. You can get educational scholarships on this platform. And above all, you can also grow. The goal of every Long Reacher is to become a 5-star director, right? So your job is to grow through the ranks as you talk about Long Reach and its the efficacy of its products, as you bring other people to enjoy a beautiful and a healthy lifestyle. You begin to grow and your business begins to flourish. Now, your growth is not mandatory, it is your choice. Success is not mandatory, success is a choice, right? So you can do well by building yourself into a big time network marketer and enjoy multiple benefits. So finally, I will say that it's important that you switch your brand once again and empower yourself with knowledge, because you see, knowledge is power. With knowledge, you're able to gain control over your health. Today, you've learned about high blood pressure, and I believe nobody on this call should suffer from high blood pressure, because we've seen how it can come about and how you can manage it to ensure you do well, to take care of yourself, and share your testimonies with others so that you can also save other people from the pains of suffering from hypertension. Don't keep quiet when it comes to Long Reach products, because They offer you a better life and a better future. And as I will always say, every time I round up, good health is the most important thing, people. Good health is the most important thing. It's more important than success, more important than money, more important than power. You cannot do good if you don't have good health. So I leave you with this and I say thank you for making it a day with us. I hope you got value. If you did, please put it on the chats, okay? Let me hear from you. Thank you very much.